Okay, so today we're going to take a deep dive into Junk Food Monkeys.
Okay.
It's a song by Terence Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
And we really want to focus on how that song's whole like human zoo concept plays out like in the real world
Right.
when you look at it through the lens of urbanization.
You got it.
You know how we like to get into the nitty-gritty of these things?
Absolutely.
We're going to be looking beyond just like the initial, Desmond Morris, the human zoo stuff,
Right.
and seeing what contemporary research has to say about all of this.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You've got this artistic expression like this song.
Yeah?
And it kind of captures these feelings, and then science comes along, and it's like, okay, let's investigate this. Like, what's really going on here?
Yeah. So let's start with that whole human zoo metaphor.
Okay.
I mean, when you hear that title, Junk Food Monkeys.
Yeah.
And you think about like this idea of a human zoo.
Uh-huh.
It really brings to mind, you think about people all crammed together.
Yeah.
Kind of like on display.
Yeah.
So like how does that actually play out in dense urban areas?
Well, think about that feeling of being watched all the time.
Right.
It's something that the song hits on.
Yeah.
And Morris talked about it too. And it definitely like resonates with city life.
Yeah.
There's research showing that anxiety levels are higher in places with more people packed in.
Really?
Like, for example, there was this study in Europe and they found a connection between how dense a neighborhood was and how lonely people said they felt.
Wow.
And this was over a few years.
That's interesting.
So it wasn't just a one-time thing.
So just being around a lot of people doesn't automatically mean you feel connected.
Exactly.
Oh.
It's not just about how many bodies are there.
So what are some of the other things in cities?
Okay, so one big one
Yeah.
is not having enough green space.
Nature.
Yeah, like parks, trees, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's lots of research showing that being in nature
Yeah.
can make you feel better,
Right.
more relaxed. And cities don't always have a lot of that.
So it's like you're trading one thing for another.
Right. You're surrounded by concrete instead of trees.
Right.
And that can have an impact.
But then there are those community spaces,
Yes.
where people can actually come together.
Exactly.
That seems really important in these urban environments.
It's all about having places where you can actually connect with people.
Okay, so we've talked about the environment, the feeling of being observed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about behavior?
Okay.
I mean, the song is called Junk Food Monkeys.
Right.
So it's hinting at something there.
It is.
What does sociology tell us about how being in those dense populations?
It's interesting because on one hand, high density can create opportunities for community.
Okay.
Like you're bumping into people all the time.
Right.
But it can also lead to more competition and people withdrawing. Interesting.
So sociologists look at things like how fast-paced city life is, how unique subcultures form.
And we can't forget about technology.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
All the digital stuff.
Right.
How does that play into all of this?
It's a double-edged sword, really.
Okay.
Because, it gives us new ways to connect with each other.
Right.
But it can also make us feel detached from, like, the actual physical world.
It's like another layer to that whole zoo concept, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about public health, which is something that the source material touches on in relation to urban environments.
Yeah. I mean, when you have a lot of people living close together, it creates the perfect conditions for infectious diseases to spread.
And we saw that with the pandemic.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's also a lot of research showing how important urban planning is. Things like making sure there's good sanitation, access to healthcare.
Those things can really help reduce those risks.
And then there's that whole issue of zoonotic diseases, because cities are increasingly bumping up against natural habitats.
Exactly where those human and animal environments intersect.
So bringing in environmental psychology.
Okay.
How does that help us understand this whole junk food monkeys idea?
Well, environmental psychology is all about how our surroundings affect us.
Okay.
Our well-being.
Yeah.
So you could see the junk food monkeys as like a symbol of behaviors that come up in a place that's overstimulating.
Right.
And maybe even unnatural.
Like craving those quick and easy fixes.
Exactly, that instant gratification.
Interesting.
But then you have this other idea called biophilic design.
Okay.
Which is about bringing nature into cities.
Like green walls on buildings.
Yes, things like that.
Okay.
It's a way to try to counteract those negative effects.
That's fascinating. That contrast
it is
between that potentially unhealthy urban environment and this intentional effort to bring in nature?
It's a really interesting area of research.
Okay, so one last thing from the song.
Sure.
That phrase, Homo erectus cappuccino.
No, yeah.
What do you make of that in light of everything we've been talking about?
It's such a great image, isn't it?
It is.
You've got this like ancient human trying to adapt to this super artificial, refined urban environment.
And the cappuccino is like...
that symbol of like modern city life.
Yeah.
It's almost like saying we're adapting.
But maybe not in a way that's totally natural.
Exactly. It highlights that tension between what we need as humans and what it takes to survive in these dense urban environments.
So it seems like that human zoo concept in the song
Yeah.
really does connect with all this research on urbanization.
It does.
The psychological effects, how we behave socially, public health.
And that connection with our environment.
And those phrases, junk food monkeys and Homo erectus cappuccino, they really give us a new way to look at how we adapt to city life.
They're such powerful images.
Yeah.
The song really is a commentary on things that science is still trying to understand.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
About your own urban environment and how it affects you.
For sure.
Like, do you ever feel more connected or more like a junk food monkey stuck in a human zoo?
It's something to consider.
It definitely is.
Definitely.
Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive today.
My pleasure.
It's been really fascinating exploring these connections.
It has.